It started like the kind of testimony that churches live for, the type of before and after miracle that could bring an entire congregation to their feet in tears, waving church fans and shouting hallelujah in the aisles, because 6 months ago, Tamala Mann, the voice that had carried gospel to stadiums, the woman who had turned "Take Me to the King" into a modern hymn, had done what many thought was impossible. She lost 200 pounds and gained 1 million hallelujahs in the process, sparking a movement so big that church aunties across the South were suddenly throwing away cornbread recipes passed down for generations and hashtagging "Wind your faith over fat" like they were about to march on Zumba class instead of Sunday service. Deacons who'd never seen the inside of a vegan restaurant were suddenly Googling vegan brisket, and entire prayer circles were swapping potlucks for Pilates. It felt like revival, only this time the altar call was happening in the gym, with protein shakes instead of communion cups. But while the pews were buzzing with joy and the internet was saturated with smiling photos of Tamala in bright workout gear, what nobody knew, not the fans, not the churches booking her for conferences, not even some of the musicians standing behind her on stage, was that this so-called miracle makeover had a hidden cost, one so devastating it threatened to end the very gift that made her who she was. Her voice. The revelation didn't come from a gossip blog or a shady anonymous Twitter account. It came straight from the mouth of Dr. Jackie herself. Yes, gospel's unofficial emergency surgeon, the woman called in when the stars of the faith world needed saving. In a now viral leaked voice recording, Dr. Jackie claimed that Tamala's vocal cords had suffered irreversible damage from a dangerous cocktail of black market metabolic injections, extreme crash dieting, and a shady sponsorship deal with a so-called Faith and Fit brand that allegedly pushed her body well past the breaking point. And according to Jackie, this wasn't a matter of she needs some rest. No, this was nerve trauma so severe that Tamala might never sing again, and maybe never even speak the same way. Suddenly, the question wasn't, when's the next concert? It was, will Tamala Mann ever sing again? What had started as a glow-up had twisted into a gospel tragedy, and the mic had fallen silent. But the more the details leaked, the more it became clear. This wasn't just a medical crisis. It was a full-blown industry scandal, wrapped in holy hashtags and stage photo shoots, the kind of machine-made miracle that sells supplements and sermon series, but leaves real people broken in the background. 6 months earlier, Tamala had been gospel's poster child for transformation, posing in athleisure with soft smiles and spiritual sweat, while fans tagged friends and wrote, "Won't he do it?" under every post. But by the time whispers started slipping through the pews, she's limping on stage. She missed her mic cue. Why does she look so tired? The truth behind the curtain was already ugly. According to a crew member on her tour, Tamala often needed help just walking between dressing rooms. Her legs would tingle, her knees would buckle mid-rehearsal, and once, a backup singer claimed she had to hold Tamala upright through an entire second verse while cameras were conveniently zoomed in on her face. Then came the urgent text to Dr. Jackie from Tamala's assistant. Her legs are tingling again. She can't feel her left foot. Jackie, who hadn't even been scheduled to be involved, chartered a private jet, arrived mid-tour with a suitcase of injections, and within hours had Tamala rushed to a private rehab center in Buckhead. Staff signed NDAs so strict they couldn't even say her name out loud. Cameras were covered, and suspiciously, no medical records made it into public insurance logs. The leaked voice report revealed the horror. Jackie's voice, low but clear. Her vocal cords are shredded, the injections weakened her tissue. She's in nerve trauma. If this continues, she won't just lose her voice, she may never speak the same again. This wasn't fatigue. It was irreversible damage, caused by what Jackie bluntly called unauthorized metabolic injections and forced performance under neurological strain. The alleged culprit, a $2 million sponsorship with Christian wellness brand Faith and Fit, whose contract reportedly forced Tamala to film 2 wellness reels a week, sometimes while medicated, give interviews about products she didn't even use, and attend faith-based detox retreats that were really just expensive photo ops with green juice. She wasn't even taking the supplements. The miracle came from an unlicensed fitness prophet injecting her with black market metabolism boosters. a starvation plan borrowed from a disgraced pageant queen, and daily IV drips spiked with liver-frying fat burners. While her body collapsed, her label kept booking shows. By the time Dr. Jackie walked away, the damage wasn't just physical. It was moral, spiritual, and financial, a rot that reached from hospital hallways to the pulpit. The deeper the leaks went, the more the picture sharpened into something grotesque. Tamala Mann, unconscious in a rehab bed, IV lines taped to her arms, surrounded by people who should have been praying over her, but were instead plotting how to package her pain for profit. It started with what insiders now call the smoking gun, a leaked internal memo sent by a senior executive at Tamala's label just days after she was hospitalized. Subject line, "Keep it inspirational, not medical." The memo, forwarded to a gospel blog by a fired receptionist, instructed every public-facing staffer to avoid mentioning surgeries, therapy, or vocal injuries. Instead, they were told to frame Tamala's absence as spiritual stillness and double down on reposting faith-heavy quotes from old interviews. That's why, while she was sedated and struggling to breathe, her Instagram rolled out captions like, "Sometimes God makes you lie down to rest." Fans thought it was metaphor. According to Psalm 23 spills, it was literal. This same nurse claimed Tamala had suffered partial vocal collapse, bilateral nerve compression, and joint inflammation so severe she couldn't walk without support. Yet hospital administrators allegedly ordered her to log the condition as routine post-op fatigue in public-facing charts. Behind closed doors, Dr. Jackie was drawing up a recovery plan that could take up to 18 months, and even then, the prognosis for full vocal return was slim. In the now infamous voicemail leaked by a former intern, Jackie's voice shook as she said, "If they keep pushing her, we're looking at permanent paralysis. I won't be a part of that sin." Within 24 hours, she resigned. That's when the scrubbing began. Legal teams erasing audio files, PR firms flooding social media with old clips, and, according to leaked DMs between Jackie and a gospel journalist, someone hacking into Tamala's hospital chart with a fake physician login to replace red flag updates with vague positives like, "Patient is recovering beautifully with minimal discomfort." The IP address traced back to a crisis management firm specializing in celebrity image control. While her health was being rewritten, her likeness was being monetized. David Jr. pushed forward with his merch line, "Faith over Fatigue," despite knowing his mother had been unconscious when the designs were approved. Emails showed the line pitched as inspired by a queen's journey, that queen lying in a hospital bed, unaware. Then came the Netflix angle, a pitch deck for a docu-series called Stronger in Silence, the Tamala Mann story, complete with mock episode titles like Silent Strength and The Collapse. Tamala, still in ICU, had never seen it. Former label staff described it bluntly. They were planning her legacy before the woman even got up from the bed. And David Sr. Sources say his silence was bought with more than a car. He was promised an executive producer credit if he cooperated with the image rehab plan, which meant showing only uplifting recovery moments and framing pain as spiritual pruning instead of medical crisis. Behind the scenes, some of the same megachurches that had once hosted Tamala's concerts quietly scrubbed her from promotions, replacing her with rising voices of faith. One pastor allegedly tried to buy the rights to her unreleased music through her former agent. Another reached out to Templetone, the shadow backers of Faith and Fit, to pitch a Faith Under Fire product line, knowing full well Tamala was still sedated. The public pushback was fierce. Gospel Twitter began comparing old concert footage to recent wellness posts, exposing digital alterations, braces erased from her knees, hospital wristbands cropped out. One viral post showed the same smoothie glass recycled in 3 different current videos. Hashtags like My Free Tamala, Light Leather Rest, and Gospel Machine Exposed began trending, fans calling out the industry's hypocrisy. If she can't stand up, stop using her to prop up your pockets. Inside the hospital, resistance grew. A junior staffer tried to file a formal complaint about record tampering only to be suspended. Financial leaks revealed $900,000 in digital growth milestone bonuses paid to her management in the 6 months after her collapse, proof that her suffering was literally padding their accounts. And through it all, Tamala remained in critical care, facing a high-risk vocal surgery with a 60% chance of permanent silence. Her team never addressed the real cause of her condition, but the fans already knew, and they were done being quiet. Dr. Jackie, meanwhile, was gathering evidence for an ethics case against the label and the facility, vowing to fight not just for Tamala, but for every gospel artist chewed up by the machine. What emerged wasn't just a story